Okay, now let's look at this example here. Oops. Okay, so now here is the chemistry problem. Okay, so back when we did the chemistry problem, we were looking at the nitric acid and the toluene, and we're looking at mixing those to get TNT, and water was one of the byproducts, and we were trying to figure out what, how to solve that. So now we're going to revisit that. So I wrote here in the system of equations where we have the different molecules, right? Or not molecules, but the different atoms, right? Or not atoms, elements. Okay? So we have this augmented matrix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this, right? So first thing I'm going to do is we need to get rid of that 8. So I'm going to multiply. So the first thing we're going to do is oh, here, let me, oops. We'll do negative 8/7 times row 1 plus row 2. Okay? And so I'm going to erase this. And so what we're going to do is the top row will be unchanged. And so this will be 0, and this will be 1, right? And then that'll be negative 8, or no, positive 8 minus 5, which is 3. Oh, and this is 2, right? Yeah, negative 2. And then that's 0, so that's going to stay the same, so that'll be negative 2, and of course this isn't going to change. In fact, these will never change, they'll always stay the same. Okay? And so we get what? No, we're just going to copy the last 2 rows because, again, we didn't do anything to those, right? Okay? And now let's get rid of these 2. So that means we're going to have to what? We're going to have to do negative 1 row 2. So negative 1 times row 2 plus row 3. And then negative 3 times row 2 plus row 4, right? And so what's that going to do? That's going to, again, we're just going to copy over the first row. So that's 7, 0, negative 7, 0, 0. Of course, these are all going to be zeros. Those will never change. And then the second row is not going to change. And so now what happens here? Well, these are going to stay 0 because we're dealing with this row. So this is not going to change. These are going to go to 0, right? So let's start with the first one. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Minus 3 is negative 6. And then, of course, negative 1 times negative 2 is 2. So that's plus 0 is 2. And then we're done with that row. And then finally, negative 3. So negative 3 plus 3 is 0. Negative 3 times negative 3, or excuse me, up here, sorry. So negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. Plus negative 6 is going to be negative 15. And then negative 2 times negative 3 is 6. 6 minus 1 is or hold on, let me double check that. Hold on. Oh, sorry. This is negative 15. Got it. And then, yeah. So negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Minus 1 is minus 5. Or excuse me. Hold on. No. Positive 5. Okay, so now that's what I have. Now the last thing I have to do is here, I've got this negative 15 here. I got to get rid of this negative 15. So I'm going to multiply this by what? 15, negative 15 sixths. So I'm going to do negative 15 sixths times row 3 plus row 4. Okay, so again, I'm just going to copy the first 3 rows, right? So 0, 1, negative 7, 0, 0, 0, 1, 3, negative 2, 0, 0, 0, negative 6, 2, 0, right? And then the last row is just going to be 0, 0, and then of course this is going to end up being 0, right? Because negative 15 sixths times negative 6 is negative 15, and 15 minus 15 is 0. So then negative 15 sixths times 2 is negative 15 thirds, which is 5, negative 5. Right? So negative 5 plus 5 is 0. And we get 0. And so we get 0, we get a row of zeros at the bottom, right? So remember that 0 equals 0. Okay? So, what do we get for a solution set? Well, our solution set so again, think about it this way. So that means what? We've got a free variable. Okay? Which is W. So here W is a free variable. So in this case here, Z equals what? Z is going to equal negative, it's going to equal 1/3 W. Y is going to equal what? Y is going to equal negative 3Z plus 2W. But since this is 1/3 W, what are we going to get? So 1/3 W times negative 3 is just going to be minus W, or negative W, which is just going to equal W. And then X equals, so X equals Z, which equals 1/3 W. So our solution set, right? So if we look at our solution set then, what do we end up getting? It's going to be the set of what? It's just going to be X, so it's going to be 1/3 y 1, z is 1/3, and 1 times w, such that, okay, so there's our solution set. Now, this has many different solutions, right? Even the zero vector is a solution. But remember the context here. What are we talking about? We're talking about a chemistry reaction, right? We're talking about a chemical reaction, and we need to balance the equation. We're talking about molecules, right? So if we're talking about molecules, well, you can't have a fraction of a molecule, and it doesn't make any sense to have 0 molecules when you're dealing with a chemical reaction. So it makes sense that this will only make sense in this context if W is some positive multiple of 3. Because if it's some positive multiple of 3, then all of these proportions, all of these numbers will give us actual whole numbers of molecules on how we can, what those proportions are going to look like when we mix the chemicals. So, but other than that, that's it. Have a great day.